Ladies and gentlemen, we've all had moments when our inner voice sounded more like a harsh critic than a kind guide. That voice matters. It influences every decision, every relationship, every step we take toward our dreams. Imagine just for 3 days talking to yourself like someone you love. Start with this when you make a mistake. Instead of saying, "I'm such a failure, try, I'm human, and this is how I grow," when fear whispers, "You can't do this," respond with, "I'm learning, and learning takes time." The words you choose create your world. For 3 days, commit to kindness, commit to curiosity, catch the shame-laden judgments, and replace them with empowering questions. Notice the shifts in your confidence, your relationships, your energy. It takes courage to change the way we treat ourselves, but imagine what becomes possible when your inner voice becomes your greatest ally. You owe it to yourself to try just 3 days to begin rewriting the narrative. You'll be amazed at the strength that follows. The way we talk to ourselves is one of the most significant yet often overlooked aspects of our mental and emotional well-being. Inner dialogue, or self-talk, is the ongoing narrative that runs through our minds, reflecting our beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions about ourselves and the world. It is a voice that can empower us to face challenges or, conversely, undermine our confidence and potential. Understanding and shaping this dialogue is not just a matter of self-improvement, it is foundational to how we navigate life. At its core, inner dialogue acts as the lens through which we interpret experiences. Consider this: when something goes wrong, the way you explain the event to yourself determines your emotional response. A critical voice might say, "You're so incompetent, you always mess things up," leading to feelings of shame or defeat. In contrast, a compassionate voice might offer, "Mistakes are part of learning. What can you do differently next time?" This shift in framing not only impacts how you feel in the moment, but also influences your long-term resilience and willingness to take risks. Inner dialogue is also deeply connected to our self-concept, the collection of beliefs we hold about who we are. If your inner voice is harsh and judgmental, it reinforces a negative self-image, making it harder to believe in your capabilities or value. Conversely, a supportive and encouraging dialogue strengthens a positive self-concept, which is essential for growth and fulfillment. People with healthier self-talk patterns tend to take on challenges with more confidence and recover more quickly from setbacks. One of the most profound aspects of inner dialogue is its ability to shape our reality. This isn't about ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing interpretations that empower rather than diminish us. For instance, imagine you're preparing for a high-stakes presentation and your inner voice says, "You're going to fail, you're not smart enough to pull this off." This narrative generates anxiety and self-doubt, likely sabotaging your performance. Now imagine the same scenario with a different inner script. You've prepared well, you're capable of handling this. This doesn't eliminate nerves entirely, but it fosters a mindset that allows you to show up and give your best effort. The way we talk to ourselves also directly impacts our relationships. When our inner dialogue is dominated by self-criticism, it often spills over into how we relate to others. A person who feels unworthy may misinterpret neutral interactions as rejection or behave defensively to protect themselves from perceived judgment. On the other hand, a person with a compassionate inner voice is more likely to approach relationships with openness and trust. They can extend empathy to others because they practice it within themselves. It's important to recognize that the inner dialogue we carry didn't emerge in a vacuum. Many of us inherit critical self-talk from childhood experiences, cultural norms, or societal pressures. For example, if you grew up in an environment where mistakes were harshly criticized, you might have internalized a voice that berates you for every error. The good news is that self-talk is not fixed. It can be reshaped with awareness and intentional practice. To begin transforming inner dialogue, the first step is simply noticing it. Pay attention to the words you use when you talk to yourself. Are they supportive or critical? Do they encourage growth or instill fear? This awareness can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you realize how unkind you've been to yourself, but it's also the gateway to change. Once you've identified patterns in your self-talk, the next step is to challenge and reframe negative narratives. For example, if your inner voice says, "I can't do this," counter it with evidence to the contrary: "I've handled challenges before, I can figure this out." If the voice says, I'm not good enough, respond with, I am enough as I am, and I'm always growing over time. These intentional shifts create new mental pathways, making positive self-talk more natural. Another powerful technique is to speak to yourself as you would to a close friend. Think about how you might comfort or encourage someone you care about who is struggling. You'd likely use words that are kind, understanding, and uplifting. Apply that same tone and language to your inner dialogue. This practice not only fosters self-compassion, but also builds inner trust, a sense that you are on your own side no matter what. The benefits of nurturing a positive inner dialogue extend far beyond individual moments. They accumulate into a stronger sense of self-worth, greater emotional resilience, and a more optimistic outlook on life. People with constructive self-talk are better equipped to face adversity because they view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as reflections of their inadequacy. They are also more likely to pursue their goals because they believe in their ability to succeed. Inner dialogue has the power to influence how we perceive and interact with the world around us. By shifting from self-criticism to self-compassion, from doubt to belief, we can unlock our potential and create a more fulfilling and meaningful life. It's a process that requires patience and persistence, but the rewards are profound. Shame is a powerful emotion that can dictate our behaviors and thoughts, often in ways we aren't even aware of. It has the ability to paralyze us, make us hide, and convince us that we are fundamentally flawed. For many of us, shame is a silent yet constant companion, lurking in the background of our lives, ready to resurface when we feel we've made a mistake, failed, or fallen short of expectations. However, what if we could replace shame with something else, something less destructive and far more empowering? What if we could replace it with curiosity? Curiosity is the antidote to shame. When we approach our mistakes, flaws, or vulnerabilities with curiosity, we open the door to understanding, growth, and connection. Curiosity allows us to step back and ask, what can I learn from this? Rather than diving into the deep well of self-criticism. It invites us to explore our actions and reactions without judgment. Instead of labeling ourselves as bad or broken, we ask, what was the driving force behind this behavior, and how can I do better next time? Shame often convinces us that our mistakes are reflections of our worth. It tells us that we are unlovable, inadequate, or undeserving of success. This belief leads to a vicious cycle. We make a mistake, feel ashamed, avoid facing it, and then carry that shame into the next experience where it can paralyze us again. This cycle can keep us stuck in a state of perpetual self-doubt, preventing us from embracing our full potential. Curiosity, on the other hand, takes us out of this cycle. It doesn't judge, it simply seeks understanding. When we replace shame with curiosity, we begin to see mistakes and failures as opportunities for learning rather than as evidence of our inadequacy. Curiosity encourages us to ask questions like, what was going on for me in that moment? What was I hoping for? What would I do differently next time? These questions invite us to explore our behavior, our emotions, and our thought processes in a non-judgmental way. Rather than seeing ourselves as failures, we see ourselves as learners on a journey. One of the most important aspects of replacing shame with curiosity is that it allows us to embrace vulnerability. Shame thrives on hiding, secrecy, and isolation. It tells us that we must keep our mistakes hidden because revealing them will lead to rejection or ridicule. Curiosity, however, invites openness and connection. It allows us to share our struggles without the fear of judgment because we're no longer focused on protecting our image. Instead, we're focused on the growth and understanding that can come from discussing our challenges openly. Curiosity also helps us develop emotional resilience. When we approach difficult situations with curiosity, we build a mindset that can handle adversity. Instead of getting overwhelmed by negative emotions, we can look at a challenging experience and ask, what is this teaching me? And this mindset doesn't deny the pain or discomfort of the situation. It simply shifts the focus from self-blame to self-awareness. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding difficult emotions. It's about moving through them with the belief that we can learn and grow from every experience, no matter how painful. A great example of replacing shame with curiosity is the way we approach mistakes in the workplace. In many professional environments, failure is seen as something to be avoided at all costs. People often feel ashamed when they make a mistake, which leads them to hide their errors, deny responsibility, or even become defensive. However, organizations that embrace a culture of curiosity instead of shame are more likely to foster innovation, creativity, and growth. When employees are encouraged to approach mistakes with curiosity, asking questions like, what went wrong, how can we fix this, and what can we learn from this failure, the entire organization becomes more adaptable and resilient. Mistakes become a part of the learning process, not a reflection of personal inadequacy. This shift also applies to personal relationships. When we replace shame with curiosity, we are more likely to approach our interactions with others from a place of empathy and understanding. If we hurt someone or make a mistake in a relationship, shame can tell us to avoid the situation or blame ourselves. However, curiosity encourages us to understand what led to the conflict. We might ask, what did I miss in this situation? Why did I react the way I did, or what do I need to understand about the other person's perspective? This shift in approach not only helps us learn and grow, but also fosters deeper, more authentic connections with others. Curiosity also allows us to break free from the tyranny of perfectionism. Perfectionism often feeds shame, making us feel like we're not good enough unless we meet every expectation perfectly. This mindset can lead to chronic dissatisfaction and burnout. But when we replace perfectionism with curiosity, we take the pressure off ourselves to be flawless. Instead, we embrace the idea that we are always in the process of learning and growing. Perfection isn't the goal, growth is. Curiosity helps us see the beauty in progress, even if it's messy, imperfect, and full of setbacks. The journey of replacing shame with curiosity is not an easy one. It requires a conscious effort to challenge old patterns of thinking and to practice self-compassion. It involves creating a space where we can look at our mistakes and flaws without judgment, and where we can ask ourselves, what is this teaching me? This process takes time and patience, but the rewards are profound. When we replace shame with curiosity, we open ourselves up to a life of greater growth, resilience, and connection. We stop seeing ourselves as failures and start seeing ourselves as learners capable of growth, change, and transformation. Self-compassion is often misunderstood. Many people think it is synonymous with self-pity or weakness, but true self-compassion is a profound act of courage. It involves accepting ourselves with kindness during times of failure, disappointment, or difficulty, rather than retreating into self-criticism or shame. It is not an indulgence or a form of self-comfort to avoid discomfort. Instead, it is an acknowledgement that we are all imperfect and worthy of care. Cultivating self-compassion requires tremendous bravery because it means stepping out of our comfort zones and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and human. At the heart of self-compassion lies the willingness to embrace vulnerability. It takes courage to admit that we are not invincible, that we can't always control every aspect of our lives, and that sometimes we will fall short of our expectations. When we face difficulties, it is easy to fall into the trap of harsh self-judgment. We tell ourselves that we should have known better, or that we are somehow less deserving of love and respect because we've made mistakes. In these moments, self-compassion becomes an act of bravery. Instead of retreating into self-criticism, self-compassion encourages us to step forward with the courage to be kind to ourselves, to recognize our humanity, and to honor our efforts, even when the outcome isn't what we hoped for. One of the biggest barriers to self-compassion is the misconception that it will make us complacent or lazy. Some fear that by being kind to themselves, they will give up on striving for improvement or growth. In reality, self-compassion doesn't mean ignoring areas for growth or simply accepting mediocrity. It means acknowledging our imperfections with understanding and care without allowing those imperfections to define us or limit our potential. True self-compassion doesn't say it's okay to stay where you are, but rather, you are worthy of care and respect, even as you work toward being better. The courage to show up for ourselves with compassion begins with recognizing the role that our inner dialogue plays. The way we speak to ourselves when we make mistakes often reflects our deepest fears and insecurities. We might be inclined to say, "You messed up again, you're so stupid," or "You'll never get this right." These words can make us feel isolated, helpless, and stuck. However, when we choose to replace this harsh inner dialogue with self-compassionate statements like, "It's okay to make mistakes, everyone does," or "You're doing your best," and that's enough, we create space for healing, learning, and growth. The act of speaking kindly to ourselves in these moments requires strength. It is far easier to fall into the trap of negative self-talk because it feels familiar and sometimes even comforting in its predictability. Self-compassion, on the other hand, challenges us to step outside of this cycle and practice patience, empathy, and care. It takes courage to forgive ourselves when we fall short, and even more courage to acknowledge that we are doing our best, even if that best isn't perfect. Self-compassion is also essential for building resilience. Life can be difficult and filled with setbacks, but how we respond to those setbacks determines our ability to move forward. When we treat ourselves with kindness, we are more likely to bounce back from disappointments. We aren't consumed by guilt or self-blame, but instead can process what went wrong, learn from it, and try again. Resilience isn't about never failing, it's about having the ability to rise after falling, and self-compassion provides the emotional and mental support to do so. Moreover, self-compassion requires us to embrace imperfection, which is an essential component of personal growth. When we demand perfection from ourselves, we set ourselves up for failure. Perfection is an unrealistic and unattainable standard that only fosters frustration and burnout. Self-compassion, however, allows us to release the need for perfection and instead focus on progress. It encourages us to accept that mistakes are part of the process and that we don't have to be flawless to be worthy of love, respect, or success. An often overlooked aspect of self-compassion is how it enhances our relationships with others. When we learn to show compassion to ourselves, we are better equipped to extend that compassion to others. Our capacity for empathy grows when we practice self-kindness because we become more attuned to the struggles and pain of others. Furthermore, when we embrace our own vulnerabilities, we become more open and accepting of others' vulnerabilities. This creates stronger, more authentic connections as people feel safe to be themselves around us. When we are compassionate with ourselves, we create an environment where compassion can flourish in all of our relationships. Self-compassion also includes setting healthy boundaries. It takes courage to recognize when we are overextending ourselves or allowing others to treat us poorly. By practicing self-compassion, we learn to honor our needs and protect our well-being. This doesn't mean being selfish or withdrawing from others. It means acknowledging that our needs are valid and that we deserve to care for ourselves just as much as we care for others. Healthy boundaries are an act of self-respect and a demonstration of the strength it takes to honor ourselves. In a world that often values productivity, achievement, and perfection over human connection, self-compassion is an act of rebellion. It is a declaration that we are worthy of care, love, and understanding no matter what we accomplish or how we perform. It is the courage to stand up to the pressures that tell us we must be flawless, and instead to choose kindness, patience, and acceptance toward ourselves. Practicing self-compassion is not a one-time act, but a continual process. It requires effort and intention, especially in moments of difficulty or failure. Yet, it is through this repeated practice that we build a foundation of emotional resilience, strength, and grace. Each time we choose compassion over self-criticism, we take one step closer to becoming the people we are capable of being whole, empowered, and compassionate toward ourselves and others. Trust is often seen as something that exists between people. We trust our friends, family, and colleagues, and trust is foundational in relationships. However, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Building trust with yourself is a vital yet often overlooked process. It's the foundation for confidence, growth, and a deeper connection with your authentic self. It involves consistency, honesty, and self-respect, qualities that nurture the kind of inner stability that allows you to thrive in all areas of life. The process of building trust with yourself begins with understanding that trust is built on action, not just intention. It is easy to make promises to ourselves, but it takes courage and discipline to follow through on those promises. Every time you honor your word to yourself, you reinforce your belief that you are someone who can be counted on. When you break your commitments to yourself, you weaken that trust. Whether it's something as simple as saying you'll wake up early to exercise or as significant as following through on a personal or professional goal, every time you do what you say you will do, you are building your own trust. Consistency in action is key to creating the foundation of a trusting relationship with yourself. However, trust is not just about action, it's also about honesty. Being honest with yourself means acknowledging the truths you might be avoiding or denying. This is not about self-criticism or harsh judgment, but rather about accepting yourself as you are, with all of your strengths and flaws. Sometimes it can be easy to lie to ourselves, to convince ourselves that things are fine when we know deep down they are not. But when we deny our feelings or suppress our desires, we create dissonance within ourselves, and trust begins to erode. Instead, building trust requires the courage to face uncomfortable truths. It means acknowledging when something isn't working for you, recognizing areas where you need to grow, and taking responsibility for your choices. Another significant aspect of building trust with yourself is the ability to be reliable in your own eyes. This requires setting realistic expectations and goals that align with your values and priorities. It's easy to set goals based on external pressures or societal expectations goals that may not align with what you truly want or need. When we set goals that feel right for us, however, we are far more likely to trust ourselves to achieve them because we've taken the time to reflect on what matters most to us. Part of being reliable to yourself is understanding that you don't need to meet every external expectation or demand. Your worth is not determined by how much you can accomplish according to other people's standards, but by how aligned you are with your own truth. Building self-trust also involves showing up for yourself, especially during times of failure or disappointment. It's easy to trust ourselves when everything is going smoothly. However, true trust is demonstrated when things don't go as planned. Self-trust means knowing that even when you fall short or make mistakes, you will respond with compassion, understanding, and a commitment to learning. It's easy to fall into the trap of beating ourselves up when we fail, but that only deepens the sense of mistrust. Instead, when you trust yourself, you know that failure is not a reflection of your worth, but simply a part of the process of growth. When you fall, you have the courage to get back up, learn from the experience, and move forward with resilience. A key part of self-trust is learning how to trust your intuition. We often look outside of ourselves for validation, answers, and direction. While seeking guidance from others can be valuable, trusting your inner wisdom is essential for building confidence in your decisions and actions. And your intuition is a deep well of knowledge that you've accumulated over the years, shaped by your experiences, values, and understanding of the world. It speaks to you through subtle feelings, gut instincts, and quiet knowing. Listening to and trusting your intuition means giving yourself permission to make choices that are in alignment with your truth, even if they don't always make logical sense to others or fit conventional norms. Trusting yourself also means giving yourself the grace to make mistakes without fearing that they will define you. Perfectionism often stands in the way of self-trust. When we hold ourselves to an unattainably high standard, we create an environment of constant self-criticism and doubt. Perfectionism thrives on the belief that we must always get it right. That failure is something to be avoided at all costs. But true trust requires the ability to accept imperfection. It means knowing that mistakes are part of the journey and do not diminish your worth. Every time you embrace a mistake as a learning opportunity rather than a failure, you strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. Another critical component of building trust with yourself is self-respect. Respecting yourself means setting boundaries, honoring your needs, and prioritizing your well-being. When you continually put yourself last or allow others to take advantage of you, you send the message to yourself that you are not worthy of care or respect. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's a necessary act of self-preservation. When you respect your time, energy, and emotions, you show yourself that you are valuable and worthy of consideration. This respect is a vital piece of the trust-building process, as it reinforces the idea that you can rely on yourself to advocate for your own needs. The act of building trust with yourself is a lifelong process that requires patience, consistency, and self-compassion. There will be setbacks, moments when you falter or doubt your abilities. But each small step you take toward honoring your word, being honest with yourself, and trusting your instincts helps you build a solid foundation of self-trust that will carry you through life's challenges. Trust is not something that is easily given or taken away. It is something that is earned over time through consistent actions, choices, and the willingness to show up for yourself, no matter what. When you trust yourself, you can face the world with confidence, knowing that you have the strength and resilience to navigate whatever comes your way. Rewiring the brain is not an overnight transformation. It requires conscious effort, persistence, and a shift in mindset. However, it's possible to start the process of change and self-discovery in just 3 days by focusing on a few key practices that can begin to alter the neural pathways that govern our habits, thoughts, and behaviors. While 3 days is a short time frame, it's enough to create a strong foundation for lasting change. The key is to approach the process with intention, mindfulness, and an openness to growth. The first step in rewiring the brain is recognizing that our current behaviors and thought patterns are learned, not permanent. This is crucial because many of us go through life believing that who we are is fixed. We think that we are naturally anxious, stressed, or negative, and therefore change seems impossible. However, the brain is incredibly malleable. This ability is known as neuroplasticity. Every experience we have, every thought, and every action creates new neural connections. Through repetition, these connections become stronger, which means that our habits and patterns are not set in stone, they can be rewired. On the first day of this 3-day challenge, the goal is to become aware of your current thought patterns. Start by identifying the default negative or limiting beliefs that often run in the background of your mind. These can include things like "I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed," or "I'm always overwhelmed." Acknowledging these thoughts is the first step in transforming them. Rather than simply accepting them as truths, begin to challenge their validity. Ask yourself, is this belief really serving me, or is this thought based on facts, or is it just a habit of thinking? When you consciously observe these thoughts without judgment, you begin to interrupt the automatic patterns of the mind. On day 2, the focus shifts to positive reinforcement and intentional action. Now that you are aware of your negative thought patterns and behaviors, it's time to replace them with more positive and supportive alternatives. This requires consciously choosing to engage in thoughts and behaviors that align with the person you want to become. For example, if you tend to think "I can't handle this" when faced with a challenge, replace it with a more empowering belief like "I am capable of figuring this out." If you notice yourself procrastinating, take small, intentional steps toward action. The brain thrives on repetition, and by consistently replacing old, limiting patterns with new, supportive ones, you begin to create new neural pathways that reinforce these positive behaviors. One effective technique for reinforcing positive changes is gratitude. Gratitude rewires the brain to focus on abundance and positivity rather than scarcity and negativity. Begin the day by writing down 3 things you are grateful for. As simple as this practice may seem, it has the power to shift your brain's focus toward the positive. Gratitude activates the brain's reward center, releasing dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitters that promote feelings of well-being and contentment. By practicing gratitude regularly, you are training your brain to notice the good in your life, which in turn helps to reduce stress and increase overall happiness. Additionally, practice self-compassion on day 2. Changing deeply ingrained habits and thoughts is not easy, and it's essential to be kind to yourself during the process. When you make mistakes or fall back into old patterns, don't criticize yourself. Instead, approach yourself with the same compassion that you would show a friend in a similar situation. Self-compassion helps to reduce the stress and frustration that often arise when we try to change, making it easier to stick with new behaviors. It also helps to maintain a growth mindset where you view challenges and setbacks as opportunities to learn rather than as failures. On the 3rd day, the focus is on reinforcing the new patterns of thinking and behavior and integrating them into your daily life. This is the phase where you begin to see tangible shifts in your mindset and actions. By now, you should have a clearer understanding of the thoughts and behaviors that no longer serve you, and you've started replacing them with new, more empowering ones. The 3rd day is about consistency, repeating the new patterns over and over until they become second nature. The more you reinforce the positive changes, the more the brain strengthens the new neural pathways, making the new behaviors easier to execute. One powerful tool for reinforcing these new patterns is visualization. Spend a few minutes each day visualizing yourself successfully embodying the new behaviors and beliefs you want to adopt. See yourself handling challenges with confidence, speaking to yourself with kindness, and achieving your goals. Visualization activates the same neural networks as actual experience, making it a potent tool for rewiring the brain. As you visualize success and positive change, your brain begins to believe it is possible, which in turn motivates you to take the necessary actions to make it a reality. In addition to visualization, surround yourself with positive influences. The people, media, and environments you engage with play a significant role in shaping your thoughts and behaviors. Make an effort to spend time with people who uplift and support you, and create an environment that encourages the new behaviors you want to adopt. Positive reinforcement from your environment can accelerate the rewiring process and make it easier to stay on track. Over the course of 3 days, you can begin to rewire your brain for greater success, resilience, and well-being. While true transformation takes time and consistent effort, these 3 days can serve as a powerful catalyst for change. By becoming aware of your thoughts, replacing negative patterns with positive ones, and reinforcing those changes with gratitude, self-compassion, and visualization, you lay the foundation for lasting personal growth. Remember, rewiring your brain is a continuous process, and it starts with these small yet intentional steps that set you on the path to a more empowered and fulfilled life. In conclusion, rewiring your brain and changing ingrained thought patterns is a transformative journey that starts with small, intentional actions. Over 3 days, you can begin the process by becoming aware of your current habits, replacing negative beliefs with empowering ones, and reinforcing these changes through practices like mindfulness, gratitude, and self-compassion. While true change requires ongoing effort, these initial steps are powerful tools in creating lasting transformation. By committing to this process, you set yourself on a path toward a healthier mindset, greater resilience, and a more fulfilling life.